Yo, it's the Prodigy, man. So, look, we are about to go over WrestleMania 38, night 1 and 2. Overall, I probably give the event a 7 out of 10. Or I feel like it has to be in that 7 to 8 range. I got to give it like maybe a 7 or 7.5. I'm not completely sure, but man, we're about to get into this match card. First we're going to do the matches, then we're going to say whether we liked it or not, and then we're gonna, just grade the matches from there, man, from what we remember. Now, if there is an event I do remember, then I'll call it out. But if I don't call it out, then if you watch the pay-per-view or at least watch some highlights, you know what happened and what didn't. But I'm just gonna call what I remember from the match, and we're gonna go from there. Now, they may or may not be in order, so I'm gonna try the best I can because I'm using my memory. I might do notes later, but right now using the memory fresh off the dome. Let's hit it. Let's get it. Let's go. All right, so SmackDown Tag Team Championships, it was between the Usos and Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. This match, I was at work, so I couldn't see much of it. Match seemed pretty decent. I know Boogs, I think he got hurt from trying to lift up both of the Usos. I mean, he's a strong guy, but at the end of the day, bro, you got to know your limits. And I think that was the only part I really remember is I think he tried to go for like a move, and he was trying to it was a move where he was trying to carry both of them, and I think his leg or knee caved out, and he ended up getting injured to the point where he needed surgery after the match. But I do think the Usos rightfully won that match, because I don't think they should be losing those championships because they've been the longest reigning SmackDown champions. So I don't even think they should be losing that belt until you actually see cracks in the bloodline, their faction with Roman Reigns. Until that happens, I'm like, I don't think they should be losing the championships because it's weird because it's like, you're about to go on a small rant here, but they don't really have a tag division. So it's like, even if there were cracks in the bloodline right now, there's no tag team. I'm like, oh yeah, they should be the ones beating them. I mean, granted, thank goodness they finally got new opponents and it wasn't like a rematch, because the one against the Viking Raiders, War Raiders, War Machine, they've gone through many name changes, but that should have been a team that was legit, and it wasn't. Like, I remember at Elimination Chamber, I think they literally just attacked them, and then they just didn't have the match. It was like a scheduled match, but then it didn't happen because like the Viking Raiders got attacked from behind by the Usos. But the thing was, all they did was just rough them up a little bit, beat them up with the forearms, pushing them into the post, and that was it. I'm like, come on, these guys they're both 240 plus pounds. You telling me these big, and they're bigger than Usos, so you're telling me these big guys can't get up from just getting a few blows to the back and pushing it to the post and like maybe the stairs? I think the stairs. Like, if they're big guys, right? If they're supposed to be actual threats to the championships, wouldn't it make sense? I mean, okay, maybe it was time constraint, right? So they couldn't have the match. But the least they could have done was do some chair shots, put them through a table, like something that's going to make me believe, yeah, they took these guys out. There's no way they were going to be able to continue for even 1 minute, 10 seconds. There's no way they're getting up. That didn't happen. It was just like they just got a few blows to the back, maybe got pushed to the stairs, the post. That's about it. Yeah, I just done, just had to mention that because that was just crazy to me. But yeah, basically that ties into what I meant by saying there is not a team I think is even going to beat them. So even if there are cracks in the bloodline, there's no tag team that I'm like, okay, yeah, they're prepared, they're ready to beat them. So yeah, they've just been kind of pairing tag teams. There's no face tag teams that I think should even be taking the belts. But that's all I'm gonna say for that match. Freaking crazy, man. How do I rate it? Like I said, I didn't get to watch a lot of it, so I might give it maybe a 6 out of 10. I didn't get to watch a lot of it, but I know that started off the show. Like I said, I didn't take notes, but I do know this started off the show. All right, next match was Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin, and can we just say Drew McIntyre should be in a much more serious, believable Battle of the Titan type feud, like what he had with Sheamus, right? Like, something that's gonna be like, okay, if Drew's a freaking warrior, right? This big dude, Terminator, got the look. You're telling me Happy Corbin, which is not a small guy by the way, but you're telling me Happy Corbin that's who we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, can't wait to see that match at Mania. Like, I will say one thing. A lot of these matches were thrown together like no build up, or the build up was subpar. But I will say WrestleMania did go out with the majority of the matches. They did go out, and it was a pretty good performance. So overall, I think I would give the whole show a 7 or 8, somewhere in that range. So I might give it a 7.5 as a whole, because there was a lot of good things that happened. That's why I was gonna say 8, but you gotta factor in the negatives. So, but yeah, in this match, the only thing I can recall from this match is two things. One, for the first time, End of Days was kicked out of. End of Days is Happy Corbin's finisher. It's been protected, and no one's kicked out of it, even in his NXT days. And Drew was the first one to kick out. And funny enough, I don't think anyone's really kicked out of the Claymore since Drew's came back, except Brock. Yeah, he's the only one who's kicked out of it. So they both have very heavily protected finishers. But yeah, for the first time it got kicked out of, I was like, because when he hit it, you're thinking, of course, since it's never gotten kicked out of, you're thinking, wow, they're gonna end it like this, really, like that. That's the only belief you have in it. And then he kicks out, and it's like, that actually, that was the one time I was actually invested and took a step back, like, whoa, that's crazy. No one's kicked out. But yeah, that move is no longer invincible. It's possible to kick out now. Obviously, at least they did it with someone like Drew, though, because even though Corbin is not someone to take seriously, I mean, if you have a finisher that's protected, man, you want that there as long as possible. But yeah, Drew obviously ended the match with a Claymore, and post match Madcap Moss was there on the ropes, and he backs down, and Drew has his sword, Angela, named after his mother, and he just slashes to the top in the middle rope, straight down the middle, and it was actually a dope spot. It was dope to see that. It made Drew look dope. It made him look serious. It made him look deadly, and it was just a highlight. That you're gonna remember something like that, from that WrestleMania. But that was that match. I probably would give it like a 5 or a 6. I'm just gonna say 6, being generous, but I'm gonna say 6 only because it wasn't a match that I was like, I gotta see this at Mania. It's a SmackDown. It's a match to like open a SmackDown at best. That's the best I can give it. I don't think that match was nowhere near WrestleMania caliber, let alone any pay-per-view. Not even just talking about Mania, any pay-per-view. This match was not gonna be one to be bought into, for you to get invested. But moving on to the next match, like I said, this may not be in order, but so we're going with The Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios. Now, I personally was not one of those people who was like, oh, Logan's going to perform bad. He's going to do terribly. Because I was like, you've seen it with Bad Bunny. He did a great performance last year at Mania. And I was like, okay. And then Pat McAfee, we'll get into that later. But, he did well. But I've seen him in 2 matches before. He's done well. He's surprised a lot of people. I love his character, all of that good stuff. He really brings in a lot of, like, charisma and energy. But, I was not one of those people who was gonna assume that he was gonna be bad, and he didn't do bad at all. He got some heel heat that some wrestlers, 90% of the roster nowadays struggle to get. So that goes to show you how many people know who this guy is, and the fact that even though he's gotten better, it's still just too many people that don't like him. So he was doing, and as you should, you just feed into that. So he did the thing with Eddie Guerrero when he had the Three Amigos. And then he did the frog splash from the top rope. A lot of heel heat from that. But I like it. It's that bad guy heat that, like I say, 90% of wrestlers struggle to get. So the fact that you can bring in an outsider like that and he gets heel heat like that, fantastic, man. You're already doing what, a lot of wrestlers try to do when they're heels, is to get that. Because when someone's booing you, right, it's because they don't like you, you're making them care about the match. Even if you don't even have to be the best wrestler in the world, not even close. But if you can get them to care enough to watch your match, completely different story. And he did, man. He actually performed pretty well. I mean, it was a lot of botches. There was times where he tripped on the rope trying to get in the ring. But hey, man, I'm not gonna make fun of him for that, man. Pretty good match for someone who has not wrestled. I would give that match about a 7, man. because it was an outstanding performance. And of course, Miz hit the skull crushing finale on Logan Paul, and everyone cheered for that. So I guess I don't know if that makes that makes Miz kind of like it lightens him up as a heel because he just hit someone with a move that people don't really like as much. So there's that. All right, moving on to the next match. Gonna go with the Raw Women's Championship. That was Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. Now, I did see a good bit of this match, but there's not a whole lot of spots I can call out. But all I gotta say is great entrances. The right person won. Oh yeah, Logan Paul had some great ring gear as well. Forgot to mention that. That was some nice ring gear with the card and the Pokemon card, everything. That was actually pretty dope, man. But entrance for Becky, she came in like this. I forgot what kind of car it was, but it was pretty dope, pretty cool. So then, she came out there. She was looking pretty cool. Came down to the ring, but then, Bianca had a band in Texas, and it was a HBCU band, and they came out there and they were performing a theme song with their instruments, and that was pretty freaking dope. Bianca looked good going out there. So they're in the ring now, and I think the only spot I can call out is when obviously when she won, hit her move, she won. But when Becky hit I think it was supposed to be it looked like it was supposed to be like a senton, but it was so it's basically when you at the top rope or middle rope and you do like a front flip onto your opponent. It's like kind of where your back is supposed to kind of land here, like near the shoulder, so they can kind of catch you and fall at the same time. But she flipped to the point where her heel hit right under the eye, and it was crazy because Bianca looked fine after the match. After she won, she hit the KOD. She looked fine, but afterwards she had posted pictures on her Instagram story of how it swelled up her eye, it closed it, it closed it a pretty good bit. So I'm like, man, that goes to show you, man, the ropes hurt, the ring hurts. When you hit the ring, that hurts. When you up against the ropes, that hurts. And then on top of that, now you got somebody actually hitting you at the same time. So all of that's going on, man, and it's just freaking crazy to me how one little slip up in terms of maybe they didn't mean to hit you as hard, or they didn't mean to really catch you like that. But if they do, it leaves a mark on you, man. So, great person won. Bianca won the match. She got the Raw Women's. She's the new Raw Women's Champion. Funny enough, she lost to Becky. The SmackDown Women's Championship is the one she lost to Becky with. So it's actually fun that she would win a different title back, but get it from the same person because they had the brand split and they switched it up. But yeah, that was a good match. I would give that one a 7 as well. 7, close to an 8. Close to an 8, I would give that match. But now this one, I'm going to just give the rating up forward. This was close to a 9 out of 10. I would say 8.5 for this match. This was close to a 9 out of 10. This was Seth Rollins against a mystery opponent that was going to be handpicked by Vince McMahon. Now, I'm glad they made the right decision. They didn't make it Goldberg is the surprise opponent. They didn't make it Shane McMahon. That was a rumor, Shane McMahon. But I'm not like everyone else and was like, oh, God, I hope it's not Shane. I was like, I don't mind if Shane comes to the Rumble, but I just hope he's not Rollins. He's not his opponent. That's what I was saying. But everyone's tripping about the whole thing about the Royal Rumble. He was reportedly trying to book himself strong. And even if he did, the Rumble in the year 2022 this year, it wasn't good anyway. So would his booking really have made it worse? Or would you really have, at least you would have been actually like, oh snap, Shane's eliminating a lot of people in this Rumble. Like, you would be paying attention to the match at least if Shane's booking was there. So it's not like the Rumble was going well or interesting in the first place. But yeah, so it wasn't either one of them. They made the right decision. It was Cody Rhodes. Of course, I marked out, man. I literally still can't. This is obviously after his Monday Night Raw. Like, he showed up on Monday Night Raw, cut a great promo about his dad. So yeah, I'm recording this on a Wednesday. So yeah, it was pretty freaking dope, man. It was Cody Rhodes. He came out there with a nice intro. I obviously knew, well, the real fans knew when you heard wrestling has one royal family. Like, you knew it was Cody. Some people actually still didn't, even after all the lights went out. Of course, you confused. But then when you hear the wrestling has one royal family, I knew it was Cody. But some people still didn't know because they just know his theme. They don't know that little they don't know that talking part at the beginning, but I do. So I had already known. So I had already popped off before, or fans in the audience, and then people who I was watching like a live stream while I was watching it, they didn't even pop because they didn't know the music. But yeah, man, it was great, great entrance, great look on him. He has the American Nightmare character, and it seems like he's gonna be that going forward. I hope he eventually wins the championship. I wouldn't wait too long for that to happen because, like I said, like striking when the iron's hot, that is important because if you have someone like him, right, has built a name for himself. Granted, he had to leave the place he came back to do it, but hey, man, he created a whole new character for himself. He rebranded himself in a huge way, man. So this is much needed for, especially for a place like Raw. Not that Raw doesn't have any talent, but they don't utilize them well. So it was Seth versus Cody. The thing I do remember from this match, I know Seth had said like "Welcome to the big leagues," and he was like, that was a shot at AEW, saying that he's at the top now. He's not there anymore. So yeah, he was beating him up in the ring. Cody hits a crossroads. Rollins kicks out, which is surprising to me because I'm like, man, you would have someone kick out of a finisher when he first got back. That was kind of weird. That was the only thing that was weird to me. I'm like, so you just had somebody kick out of his finisher already? He just got back, and his finisher's getting kicked out of. Like that was like, wow. But I'm glad it didn't end there because the ending sequence was pretty cool. So both men went for a pedigree, but the crowd actually popped when it looked like Cody. Even though I knew it was going to be a pedigree, but it has the same setup. But the crowd was popping when Cody was like setting it up, and he didn't hit it. It got countered, but Cody hit a nice move. It was a Cody cutter. At a point in the match, it was a Cody cutter he hit, where basically he springboards off the rope and hits a cutter on the Rollins. That was a dope move. And then I know Rollins did a reverse superplex in his Falcon Arrow sequence. He did that. That was pretty dope. So the match ended with him hitting two crossroads, his finisher, and then he does the sequence that Dusty does with the bionic elbow and the jabs, and then he hits another crossroads. He hits four total in the match, but three in that sequence, and it was dope. It ended the match. The match was awesome. It was very entertaining. So that match was pretty cool. I give that like a 8.5 out of 10, man. It was dope. You were invested, and it was an entertaining match. I mean, these are two great in-ring performers, so I wasn't surprised that this was a good match. Especially when Cody came out, I was honestly, you had my energy up from that alone. So that was freaking dope. So let me see. Before I get to the main event, I was trying to see. I know the last two matches, but I was trying to see if I was missing one. I don't think that I did. So if this is the order, if this was the next match, then it went down. This was the only match that was a stinker, that was downhill. I'm going to make this into two parts. This is night one video, so I'm going to do night one and night two, as in night two for the next one. But it's going to be right after this one. They're going to be posted at the same time. But, man, this was the only downer match of the night. Even though none of the matches had any build and some of the matches were kind of like boring, but this one was definitely the worst. This gets a 3. I gave it a 3 out of 10. That was the best it was able to get. That was what it deserved. It was Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Yeah. The match was bad. It was bad. And it's due to the fact that Charlotte doesn't sell. She doesn't sell moves. Like when you hit her with a move, she will only sell it. Like one of the moves. So one of the moves that got hit was Charlotte like got thrown on to the outside, but she got like, her arm got pulled and she like landed on the floor. She sold it for, I counted it. She sold it for 12 seconds, and I think she like threw Ronda into the barricade. And I'm like, you didn't even sell the move. And it was just awkward. I'm pretty sure a few times they were definitely hitting stiff shots on each other, but I know Ronda was probably letting up and like, just letting it play out. But Charlotte has to start selling, man, because when she's constantly on offense, how are we supposed to even buy into the fact that anyone can beat you when you don't sell any of their moves? How are we supposed to go, oh, well, maybe this person will beat her? Like, no one's going to think that if you're always on offense. I think she only sells for like Sasha Banks, and it's because Sasha Banks doesn't play around with that. But why, if you don't, if you and she pushed for Ronda to come back because obviously she wanted to steal the spotlight. Like I said, it was hard to get invested in this match in the first place because they were doing a few things to do for the build up, but it just wasn't it. It wasn't hitting. It wasn't landing. And like I said, to me, one of the main reasons why you weren't investing to this match, not only because we've seen it before, but because in the back of people's head, they were always thinking, man, how big of a match would it have been if Ronda had picked Becky for her WrestleMania opponent? Because that was the dream match that was robbed from us in 2019 because Charlotte has to get added to everything. And I'm pretty sure the real person is very nice, but it's just when it's character time on TV, completely different person, different demeanor, and not even in like a good way, not like in that heel way, but in like a way where it's like, okay, yeah, we get it, you can wrestle, you're great in the ring, but when you don't sell for other people, when you're not on defense sometimes, that's what's gonna make your matches bad. Because when you're constantly on offense, you're constantly hitting the moves, you're constantly hitting the high flying moves, the stuff from the turnbuckle, the moonsaults. I know she tried that, hit the moonsault, of course. I think she had to hit it again, but even when she hit it again, she missed. So, yeah, it's just when you're constantly on offense, it doesn't make the match look good. Especially if someone's trying to hit something on you and you're not selling it. Like, that's what's going to take away from the matches. When someone's hitting a big move on you or they hit a big move on you and then you just get up after like 15 seconds. Like, the match was a catastrophe. And there were two parts of the match where they blacked out the screen because like it was a wardrobe malfunction. And I actually noticed they blocked it out the second time they went black. They actually didn't block it out fast enough. But funny enough, they weren't even like watching it live. You wouldn't have even known there was a wardrobe malfunction. So it's like it was funny that they even it was funny that the screen even went black because people didn't even notice. They like because there was a point where they blacked it out, but they didn't do it in time. Like, you were still able to see where the wardrobe malfunction happened, but no one would have even noticed. I didn't notice it live. This was, like, after, but I didn't notice it live. So, yeah, the match was bad. There was no selling. Well, Ronda was selling, but, when your opponent's not selling back, you can't get a good match out of that. And it's just... I don't really have to elaborate on this match. I wanted Ronda to win the belt because who else is going to beat Charlotte? Let's be realistic. But they might, or not even might. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have another match. So yeah, they're probably gonna have another match in the pay-per-view, which we won't want to see. But there's hope that at least it ends up being better and Ronda wins because, like I said, there's no one else that they believe in is gonna beat Charlotte. So match was a 3 out of 10. It was terrible. It was just you could just tell it was completely off, and yeah, that was it. So, the last thing to wrap up this video, it was the Stone Cold versus Kevin Owens, and it actually did end up turning into a match. Originally, it was just a KO show with Stone Cold. Of course, I popped for him. Crowd got a big reaction for when the glass breaks, as you would. But, yeah, so Kevin Owens basically is just still talking about how he his disliking for Texas and whatever. That was the story because Stone Cold's from Texas. So, he's like the embodiment of Texas. Everyone thinks of Stone Cold when it comes to Texas, especially when you're talking about wrestling. So, yeah, he's basically talking trash about Texas. Shout out to Kevin Owens. He carried the feud by himself. But, yeah, he like carried the feud by himself. It was promos week by week. He was just week by week carrying the promos because obviously since it was originally just going to be a KO show, you don't have Stone Cold come out because then it's like, what am I going to need to see it at Mania? You still want to see it at Mania, but it kind of ruins the surprise. But yeah, dude was cutting promos. Did a troll, came out to Stone Cold's music on one of the Monday Night Raws, and it was great. It was cool to see him get that mic time and just truly show how he is good, which I always knew he's good on the mic. So yeah, invested in this segment. It was talking at the beginning, basically talking about how we all thought it was probably just gonna be a stunner and it was gonna go home, but nope, it actually ended up turning into a match. The match Was obviously not in a traditional match, but I actually think that was a good idea. I wasn't one of those people who like I don't want to see Stone Cold in the ring because I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna really get the same feels. Like I didn't grow up watching him, but I did see some of his matches. But uh, I was like, yeah, I get it. It's not gonna be the same Stone Cold, but to me, it's him. So I'm like, if he has a match, I'm still watching. But yeah, the match was a what was it, a no holds barred match. So basically meaning they just go out throughout the it still ends by pinfall submission in the ring, but you don't have to stay in the ring. There's no count out, no disqualification, none of that. So they just go all around the ring. I think the only spot I remember is when Stone Cold took a bump on the concrete. He like they Kevin Owens did a suplex and he landed on the concrete. That was freaking crazy that he took a bump at like that at like these things like 57. Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, they were just beating each other up throughout. Well, really Stone Cold. It was just Stone Cold mainly just beating them up throughout the arena. And Kevin Owens hit a stunner on him in the middle of the ring. Stone Cold kicks out. Stone Cold eventually hits a stunner on Kevin Owens, and that ends the segment. But there was two more things I wanted to say. One, they did do the Hall of Fame and for his Undertaker. I watched his whole uh Hall of Fame speech. I watched it live, so it was like 45 minutes, and it was great, man. It was just cool seeing what he was like outside of his character and just knowing how long he, kept that character even when he was out in public. So, uh, yeah, it was just dope to hear what he had to say, his words of encouragement, his memories. It was cool. So they had all the Hall of Fame people come out there, and it was dope seeing Undertaker out there at Mania. Yeah, it was pretty dope. It was cool. And then the second thing I want to call out was, man, shout out to Byron Saxton. That dude sold the crap out of the stunner. And I said this off camera. The more people sell the stunner, the more you can tell. The bigger fans you can tell that they were of Stone Cold and that they are of Stone Cold when they really sell the stunner. And I actually realized Stone Cold actually did hit the stunner on Kevin Owens twice, actually. I think he hit one after the match was over. So, yeah, and yeah, it was just a great night. So happy, even though technically Charlotte won the Rumble, so if it's two nights, both Royal Rumble winners should main event, because that's the thing, you main event WrestleMania when you win the Rumble. But so glad that did not end off the night, as I think it was like, I think throughout the weeks it was like switching between whether that was going to be the main event or the KO show was going to be the main event, which turned into a match. But so glad that was the main event, man. And even then, it's like even if it wasn't gonna be a match, what would you really prefer to end off night one? Charlotte and Ronda, or Stone Cold and Kevin Owens? But yeah, match was pretty cool. I have to give it an 8 out of 10 just because it's Stone Cold, and that it was a smart idea so that he wouldn't have to really run up against the ropes and stuff like that. It was just battling throughout the arena. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up this video. If you made it this far, please hit that subscribe button. Like I said, we're about to be more consistent with the vids. We're posting out bangers. Let's get it, man. Prodigy, and he's out. But as a whole, like I said, I give it a 7.5 just because I just reiterating that. But peace. I love you guys who watched it this far. Let's gain them subscribers. Peace.